Good afternoon, everybody, and it's Lilia from Heal Scotland, and with me I have my friend who used to be the PE teacher in Tarbert, Fiona. How are you doing in a previous life?
Yeah, no, you were saying used to as if it was the other day. Do you know, I was actually thinking it's almost going to be like a completing a circle of 50 years.
No way.
It was 50 years ago this year
What?
that I went to Tarbert as a rookie PE teacher, you know, and I was the first I was the first permanent PE teacher that the school had. So we were both learning. Is it not
amazing? Oh my God, I would never have realised it was, but I suppose I was married at 19. So yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So you came to my yoga class.
Yes, exactly. It was you were really cutting edge at that point because you're probably one of the first people to run a yoga class in the area as well, apart from Vicky Lyons, who's been around for like 500 years.
Yeah, gosh. Anyway, right, let's crack on.
I'm excited to see you. Are you coming on Friday?
Yes. We'll be coming Friday. I'm coming with a friend as well, so that's nice.
Awesome. And you are going to be teaching us how to get rid of the baggage, as I always call it. I don't know why I call it that, but I always like the baggage. So the rubbish with kinesiology, and I'm sure you, like everybody, you mix in all of the million courses that you've done to make your own little version. That's pretty much what we all do, isn't it? So can you tell us a little bit of how you came onto that journey and what to expect?
Well, my journey of kinesiology, interesting enough, when I was at PE college, kinesiology was one of the subjects because kinesiology is the science of human movement. So as a physical education teacher, you know, you're meant to know what muscles switch on and off as a child is doing a cartwheel, you know, as if it's, you know, really crucial stuff. But anyway, that was the kinesiology, the science that I learned. So it wasn't until fast forward, that was in the 70s, fast forward to the late 90s. And I was down at one of the big Olympia health fairs in London, and I came across a stand and there was people lying and their arms were going up and down and they were doing it. And I thought, what's this kinesiology? And I went up and had it demonstrated on myself, and I was just blown away. And I thought, oh, you know, and up until that point, I'd already done things like reflexology and manipulative massage, remedial stuff. And when I came across kinesiology, I thought, oh, wow, this is a whole nother level.
Yes.
And I need to learn this. So that was my journey, started in 89, and that went on till about 92, 93, when I did the professional kinesiology practitioner stuff. And then, as you say, you move forward and you make it your own. And I suppose the stuff that I do use now, some of it are still this very, very basics that we learned at the very beginning. You still can tap into that stuff. And then now I work mostly with people via their spirit and their soul, their higher self or source, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, when I'm working with a client, it's either one-to-one in person or online. And we're working either, you know, with their past or past lives as well, the present, and we're also working into the future because we're embedding and programming future stuff to clear the baggage. So, you know, when a client comes to me, first of all, then I'm identifying the best goal for them at this moment in time. And of course, that's not a conscious mind goal, because the conscious mind goals, you know, they're very logical. You know, but this time next week I'll have cleared out the garage, you know. So the goals that we get are coming from the sources I've already mentioned. We're tapping into that. And I do that by getting clues from them, from their higher self. And that leads to us forming the best goal for them at this moment in time. And then we proceed to identify the main baggage that's inhibiting that goal from being achieved. We find sabotage programs. We have lots of those that we carry around. I identify beliefs and habits that are there embedded and have been. Many of them can be subconscious as well. They're not even aware that they're carrying this stuff. And then we identify the first thing that's to be diffused over the goal. And we do that, and then they go away and they process that, they work on it, and that will hopefully bring the blocks, the stress over the goal down. It may take 3 or 4 sessions to help to diffuse that goal, the stress over the goal. And there's no rush. You know, I work with the client. It's not a matter of, right, come back next week. No, it can be 2 or 3 weeks. It could be a month. It could be 3 months, you know, when I see them next, or we work online. So that's really how each client works. And, you know, I gave some thought to, I did give some thought to the workshop, and I thought, you know what, because I like having fun, you know, and I like people who experience some fun at these things. So we certainly will be having some fun. And I thought, you know what would be really cool would be if we did a group balance. And we had a group goal. So that's what I'm going to do. And of course, the goal will be relevant to everybody who's there. It will just be relevant on different levels. And it may be some people will have a greater block or stress over the goal than others, but the whole thing will balance out, and we'll work through that, and we'll diffuse some of the stress, or as much of the stress that could be diffused in that session. So hopefully they'll get a good taste of, you know, what can be done, and it'll be interactive, and I'll also do some demonstrations of how energy, you know, well, I know you know all about frequency, but how easily our frequencies are influenced even by the words that we use, the thoughts that we think, the visuals that we see, the auditory inputs. Everything has an effect on our frequencies on a moment-to-moment basis. So I'll be able to hopefully demonstrate that as well.
Awesome. So do you, with your clients, do you give them like homework to do or play work to do? Home
play. Yes. Whatever we find is being identified to help diffuse the stress over the goal, whether it's a new habit, mental habit, emotional habit, whether it's a new belief, then that's what they will take away. And they will use it as an affirmation. They will use it as an awareness raising, and noticing how they are perhaps changing their behavior or making different choices, and just being more conscious, really, of it. And it's like everything else, you know, the clients that do the work make the progress. So
100%. Yeah,
100%.
That's therein. I mean, it's like going to the gym. I say it's like your mind gym. If you don't go to the gym, you're not going to get the result. If you don't practice your guitar, you're not going to get better. It's the same, isn't it? You have to keep it going, even when you do not want to. You can't be bothered, and the mind's wanting to take you somewhere else. It's you overriding the program and going, no, this is getting rewired. This house is getting rewired.
Exactly. I know. Yeah.
So do you know, because my kids always say to me, because, you know, usually I'm working with people who've been diagnosed terminal and incurable, and they're like, why do you do that? I don't know how you can do it. It's too sad, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, actual fact, that's not what I never thought, oh, let's see what we can do here. Let's find the most difficult, emotive group of humans and go there. It's just something that kind of happened, I suppose. What do you find you get a certain kind of, there's a certain type of client that comes to you? Or do you have a nice...
Not really. I do get quite a broad spectrum because I work with children all the way up to seniors. And, and this is the truth. This week I am actually doing a balance on a cat.
Yeah. That's really common now. People want to work with their pets.
Yeah. This is a cat that was a stray, and it's been taken in by somebody, and they want to find out, how much we can help with them. Yes, I don't really have a typical client. I think it's because, another aspect of my kinesiology is educational kinesiology. So I work with whole brain learning, and that's with anyone who has perhaps dyslexia, dyspraxia, spectrum issues, ADHD, and to see how well we can help to balance the brain, and just giving them tools to do, really, to help them. It's not something that can be completely reversed, but they can help their brain to process information with less stress, which is always a good thing.
Well, yeah, it's often, I think, we want to go to the kind of big goal, which is complete healing. But I think mostly, I'm sure you see this too, if you can just help people pain go from a 7 to a 4, that's a success. If you can feel your anxiety goes from a 10 to a 6, that's a success. So it's just being able to kind of show and demonstrate to people that you have the power over the body to change how you're feeling. And certainly if you've been battering away at something for a long time with very little success, know that there's a blockage there, a subconscious blockage there that you can identify, via a lot of the techniques that we teach, and also help clear that energy. And I just think, it makes it so much easier to understand when you just think of things as frequency and electricity, and you're like, okay, there's a fault in that line, and then you can use the protocols and the techniques daily, if possible, to really clear out the energy system so that you're the kind of most vibrant electrical version of yourself that you can be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I also get, physical patients, as I call them, that will simply be coming with a back pain or a neck issue. But of course, it's never that simple. There is always emotion hiding behind that physical pain. And, identifying that can make a huge difference of releasing that physical block that they have. And absolutely. I think it's also very, very empowering for the client, rather than just going to somewhere and getting a fix of the physical, with no understanding of the underlying root. And that root could go back to childhood. It's not necessarily a recent emotion that's blocked in, and something's triggered it, something that has triggered the older incident or memory from that childhood and has caused the physical pain. So yeah, absolutely. Frequency is everything.
I know. I met a woman when I was at the Science and Spirituality Conference on Vancouver Island, and she worked with people with fibromyalgia, and she didn't even look at nutrition. It was all the emotional stuff. And she had 100% success rate. And I was like, oh my God. It drives you insane when people are doing this and it's still not available at our NHS point of entry, where you're just like, these are the kind of non-toxic, non-aggressive, powerful things that you can do. And we still don't have any of that, in our front line. It's crazy. But I like to think that people are...
You and I know the reason why it's not on the front line.
I know. And I think, it's all very well. There's people like you and I, but the reality is, especially now with nearly 25% of our population too sick to work, we have a very, very critical situation in our hands. And the reality is, and that's why I started Heal Scotland, is people should have access to this information for free. You have to understand how your body works and what you can do to help yourself. And then it would mean if we could take that burden off the NHS and let them just do only the things that they're good at, and all the other autoimmune issues have to come back into another form of medicine, wild medicine, obviously. Then we could have really great systems, but we're stuck in this archaic, clunky, toxic system, as if the body has no intelligence, as if the mind has no impact over the body. I mean, it drives me insane. And you're like going, how does everybody not see? How is it possible that you cannot understand the power that you have within to influence every cell in your body? And I suppose it's just they call it the awakening, isn't it? Wakening up to the power within, because we've handed over all of our power. We've trusted to our detriment that what the government has allowed to be sold in the supermarkets, to be given at the pharmacy, even our judicial system, it's all, we're like that now, going, no, these systems are, at best archaic.
Well, that's the real pyramid, isn't it? And we're all at the bottom, getting fed from the top down, because we have a perfect opportunity for children in schools to learn this stuff, but they don't, and they don't because the information, the processes, the systems are all higher up that pyramid, and our children are not being empowered to understand their own bodies, and that would be the perfect time, of course, to do it.
Of course. Teach them how to breathe. Teach them for a start that you actually can change how you feel. You're not a victim. You're not entitled. You're super resilient. The body's a self-innate healing mechanism. These are the things that we should be teaching. They're exciting. And if you get them when they're young, they'll just never, that's just the way it is. That is the time. But anyway, were you not teaching it in schools at one point?
Well, when I was teaching, I mean, our original qualification, I don't know what it is now, but back then it was physical education, and it was health as well. So yes, we were actually qualified to teach health education for children. But, again, the curriculum for that was very, very mundane. And back then, of course, in the 70s, we didn't talk about frequencies and how all of this would unfold. But yes, I just wish it would happen. Children are magical, and they're like sponges, and they question things, and they're so smart, so bright. And yet as you were saying, the food chain and the pharmaceutical industry is just determined to dumb them down.
I know it's so sad, and it's so, but I do believe that parents are now it's consumer driven, right? You keep going there and saying you want these things, then they're going to keep producing them. We have to say, no, we're not going to have that. But the reality is, so many parents, and I know I was like this as well, you're busy, you're tired, you try to survive 3 meals a day, 24/7. It's not an easy task. I mean, I can remember it like yesterday, and it is quite a long time ago, but it's by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is trying to feed
and the cost of food now is becoming outrageous. It really is.
I know.
Gosh, things are not going up by like a penny or something.
Well, my friend's got a fish and chip shop, and she was saying they've just stopped selling cod because it's so expensive. We used to pull out the loch there 6 at a time, no problem. It's just things are not going great for the food chain, but we can get that back. That's the thing. If enough of us, and I think this is the thing that frustrates me most, is that the power is with the people. If enough of us just go, no visitor levy, we're not having it. It's that simple. You're here to help us, not the other way around. They're dictating to us what we can and cannot do. And they've wasted all that money in Brexit and COVID. And now it's like, well, let's try and screw the middle class even more. It's just bonkers why people put up with it. But I think we've been kind of lulled into this false sense of security where we've become, unpolitical. And I did a podcast with Neil McEnroy, and he was saying, we have to get political. Because if you just think, we paid them to do that job, so they'll do it. Then we look at, the level of corruption that we've seen over the last few years, and you're like, no, you have to keep an eye on the people that you've given that enormous amount of power to. So, and
that's been going on it's been going on forever. you know.
I know,
The
exactly.
The corruption at that level, yeah.
Yeah. But now
it's just getting worse.
I do believe COVID's kind of shone a big fat flashlight on it, that you're like, right, okay, it's time for us to start taking a wee bit more responsibility in our communities again. You can complain, blame and shame all you like. It changes nothing. It's us that have to, yeah. And that's what the festival's all about. So that's exciting. So your people can come and meet you. You'll be around all weekend, because it's really nice, I think, that people can get to chat to you kind of off,
Yes.
you know,
Yes, I'm actually staying. I'll be leaving on the Monday at some point, so I'm staying
nice.
in one of the pods as well. So I'll be there. And the only other thing I was going to mention is I'm almost finished my second book, which I'm really excited about.
What's it called?
Well, I won't reveal the title yet because it's not published, but the topic is self-love.
Ah, very important.
So,
loving yourselves.
Love yourselves. So it's about self-love, and I've got a nice little formula worked in there, which is quite fun. It's at the editing stage, so hopefully it'll get published next month sometime. So I will tell, you know, the group that I'm working with who come to the kinesiology session about it as well.
Oh, let me know when it's out. I would love to see that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to offer people a copy, a PDF watermark copy of the introduction as well.
Great.
Because I think it'd be quite nice for people to get a taste of what the book's actually going to
be
about.
To see if it resonates. Yeah. Awesome.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great stuff. Well, I look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, honey. Sorry about the phone. It's a bit wobbly.
No, it's fine. No problem at all. Okay.